and welcome to the Wheel of Crime podcast, the podcast where two ladies play games, shout profanities, and laugh way too often. Also, this podcast does cover topics of sensitive nature, and as such, listener discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome once again to the Wheel of Crime podcast. My name is Jenn.
My name is Emily, and I am here with very special guest Rosemary today because her and I have been sharing a recording space just while she's getting acclimated to the rest of my house still.
Aww,
so,
what? Isn't that a coincidence? I'm sharing a space with my puppy Dewey today. He's hanging out with me.
Oh my gosh. Double co-hosts, double prizes.
He's begging for pizza, but I already ate it, so he's SOL. He just doesn't know it yet.
He's a little late. That's
it's
okay.
It's true, but
he's like, Mama, just breathe in my face and I can pretend.
Please give me some pizza.
Please. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's one thing with owning cats that I'm very thankful for. They just beg for their own food. They could literally care less about what I eat, but I also think that they think what I eat is inedible, so nothing but winning.
I too think that sometimes, so.
I know. That's actually what most people think, I feel.
Whenever you feed me, it's delicious. But sometimes you send me things and I'm like, that's questionable.
Yeah, I am known to do that. I've accepted that as my fate as the experimental chef.
Emily's on a I don't know if you still are, but she was at least on a cabbage kick, and that's something I just don't know if I can get behind.
Yeah, I was in a cabbage kick. Now I'm onto a kale kick. Kale and Swiss chard.
Kale is so good.
Yes. So, for example, what I just ate for dinner tonight was basically fava beans, I should say. Fava beans and garlic kale and pickled red onions and tomato with Greek yogurt, lemon, smoked paprika, cumin, and garlic. I think I said garlic already. I doubled the garlic.
So much. You can never have too much garlic, truly.
It was very tasty. I won't lie. I was questioning myself because I've never actually cooked a fava bean before, but I've been seeing a lot of viral salads that use them. So I was like, they must be good for something. And turns out, tasty wrap. Yum yum. Oh, and jasmine rice and feta cheese.
Ooh, that actually does sound really good.
Baller. I have never eaten that fast in my whole life. And Jen will know that's an accomplishment. It usually takes me like 2 hours of staring at my food before I'm done.
It's true. It's one of her many unique quirks.
I like that you say quirk and not flaw, but I'll take it.
You have no flaws. You're perfect to me.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you flatter me. Yeah, well, what have you been up to recently that's fun? Obviously, we're both working, so that I feel like we've been there, done that as far as that conversation goes, but...
Just had a housewarming party, so that was fun. Emily was in attendance.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Jen went absolutely batshit crazy at her own party, drank all the sangria, danced on a table.
Yeah, totally. Totally. You know me. I'm just a wild girl.
Mm-hmm. And then, what else? She, I don't know. What are some other crazy things that people do when they're drinking? She broke a weird tiny bone that nobody knew existed, and then,
yeah.
And then she messaged a celebrity, and they asked her on a date, and she had to turn them down.
'Cause I'm a married woman.
Yeah, no other reason. And then I feel like these are all good ones, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And they all totally happened.
They definitely all happened, and I know that because I was there.
Yeah. I mean, I do think I went a little generally insane right before the party, like trying to get it. Like, I really, the worm in my brain just wants everything to be so freaking cute and perfect when people come. And like, I don't
Jen's
know.
like, I need to re-varnish the furniture before my friends get here. And I'm like,
Literally.
That's probably a non-issue. But I'm the same way, so I really can't say that much.
I'm like, John. My husband is John, if you don't know me. I'm like, listen, all of the new curtain rods.
We all have one.
Yes. All of the new curtain rods really need to be put up because people will judge us about the ugly curtain rods that were left here by the previous owner. And he's like, that's not a priority. And I'm like, I will cry if it's not done. And
you're like, a non-priority to you, maybe. But who's in charge of this house?
It's urgent, okay? Trust me. It's urgent.
But changing curtain rods is like such a small job. You could literally do that in like 10, 20 minutes tops.
I don't know. It took that man like 30 minutes each for each one, and there was 4 to do.
That's a journey, but I'll be kind to him because I don't actually think he has that much of a background in mechanical stuff like I do, so I'll let it slide for now. I'll harass him in person though when I see him next.
Yeah, maybe next time you come up, you can help me put up some curtain rods.
I was going to say, just put me to work. I can do it most things in literally 10 minutes, depending on what it is. You watched me fix your fan before.
It's true. I might take you up on that next time you're here, so don't tempt me.
I literally don't care. And I will do it, because it'll make me happy, too.
Well, if it'll make you happy and me happy, then I think that's all that matters.
Absolutely. Because it's obviously I live there too.
Bonus if it makes my husband insane and miserable.
He's just like, I just want a couch and a TV and for people to leave me alone. And you're like, actually, we're polishing silverware. I
am painting the ceiling for the 4th time because I can still see little lines where it didn't go perfectly.
We're reinstalling rods in the closets now.
It's true. I basically did all of those things because I'm evil.
Basically. That's why I do them, is because I'm evil. I'm evil and my brain's like, you need to come up with something that's ridiculously hard for no reason to do next. And you have to have your husband help you because that's what he's here for.
It's not my fault. He won't let me use the drill.
He won't let you use the drill? Tell that man to grow up.
Well, it's because I'm a big fan. I'm like,
you over torque things, don't you?
I do over torque things. I also do not test for studs or like electrical, so I just go on vibes only.
See, I used to do that, and then I blew up a wire in the wall. So now I have a nice, expensive stud finder that does really cool things that I got on Amazon.
We got the same one per your suggestion, so he loves it.
Yeah.
I'm like, that seems optional, but that's why I'm not allowed to use the drill.
That's fair. I had to school myself into using the stud finder because I ain't got no time for taking apart walls. I'd rather just do the job once and never think about it again.
You know what? That sounds reasonable. But I'm still probably not gonna do it.
I don't often agree with John. Maybe just one time is fine. Maybe just one time. But yeah, I know. I wish I had more news. Like I finished the next Fourth Wing book or something. But I'm having a time here. I do plan on catching up soon. I've run into this problem though with audiobooks where I don't feel like I have time to sit there and read. But occasionally, I'm like, I would love to listen to an audiobook right now. And then I'm like, but I don't have anything to do with my hands that I could listen to an audiobook at the same time. And eventually I'm at a point where I'm like, do I just like to make excuses for not doing things?
Probably. It's why I got into embroidery.
But that's my thing. I like crafting. So I love the idea of doing something with my hands because it's kind of like you're able to focus on one thing while listening to something at the same time. It's kind of like listening to like a podcast and driving somewhere or going for a walk and listening to music. Like I feel like when you're doing audiobooks, it should come hand in hand with something. And I have been listening to audiobooks, but sometimes like if you're really focused at work, it doesn't really work. Or like if you're cleaning the house, it's kind of like, yeah, but then if you're vacuuming, you can't really hear stuff either. I just need something that's like a calm activity.
See, I usually just put on my AirPod Maxes, like the big chunky boys, and put on noise canceling, and it fixes that vacuum issue. But I do agree, like when you're at work reading something, you can't be listening and like reading because it like one of them you're not paying attention to.
Exactly. And see, I've had a few people mention to me where they're like, oh yeah, I listen to audiobooks and work all the time. And I'm like, maybe if you're doing something that's just specifically with your hands, like, you know, to me that makes sense. But it's like what you said, if you're reading or like doing anything that requires like somewhat complex thought processes, I'm like, ah, there's only so much
It's a
room
no.
in here.
It's a no. See, I used to listen to a lot of audiobooks at work because, like, a few years ago, especially when I was, like, doing things like filing or, like, organizing things or whatever. But, like, now that I don't really do those things anymore and I actually have to, like, think with, like, my whole brain, I find myself, like, I'll start listening and then I'll have to, like, pause and then I'll, like, it's, like, two stop start to be, like, enjoyable at all.
Exactly. And then it's kind of like, even at that point, too, sometimes music gets a little bit hard, too, because it's like if the music has words in it and I'm reading at the same time, same thing. Can't do it.
I can usually tune music out, but for me, it's just more noise and less, like, about actually, like, actively listening and engaging, you know?
See,
Where I
wish
feel like in
I
audiobooks...
feel like the minute there's words, my one side of my brain's like, we're here! And I'm like, you don't have to. It's like, too late!
You're like, stop it. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like audiobooks, like, you're supposed to be engaging with them in, like, you know, the same way you would a book. So, yeah, I can't really do it while I work anymore.
It's a lot. But yeah, so that's been my journey lately, which is less of a journey and more of a struggle, but that's neither here nor there. What about you? Have you been doing anything fun?
No. No.
Well, in that case, we can do the other fun thing we do, which is our show, and I can ask you questions.
Yay! Okay, well, let's spin the wheel of questions then.
Let's do it.
And no, we haven't fixed the wheel yet, so here's a very unjuicy spin.
Ooh. Are you into any winter sports?
I used to love skiing, and it's something I have been meaning to get back into, just, you know, time. And I hate winter driving, so that's a small barrier, but I do love skiing. It's a lot of fun.
Yes. I agree with you on that as well, for literally the same reasons. And for me though, I like doing different things. I'm just not good at them in a way where it's a risk to my health. So like I love downhill skiing. I never learned how to stop. I try.
Oh,
like,
really?
If I pizza, I front flip. If I try to do the little sideways, like my ankles just beat it right into the dust. So I just keep going. I coast to a finish every single time. And it's hazardous because I'm no longer a child, which means that my body weight takes me farther. And the last time I went skiing, I flew straight into the forest line right at the end of the ski hill. And that was a little bit of a problem.
I can imagine. No, I used to actually be pretty good at skiing. I haven't been in a few years, but I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I can stop, surprisingly.
Maybe you and I can go one day and you can try to teach me how to stop, because this, to be fair, this translates to other sports. Like Jenn and I used to do a lot of winter skating. Also, never learned how
I'm
to
terrible at
stop
skating
for that either. I can't do it. Right into the barriers every single time. I don't know how to do it. My ankles just go wee, and then that's it.
Yeah, I'm not good at skating. I don't know what it is about that sport, but it's not for me.
I'm decent enough at it. I just feel like you have to put a lot of work in to not even go that fast.
Yeah.
honestly.
And I have no interest in playing hockey, so I'm like, what? For what? Like, for what am I doing this?
Yeah, or like figure skating or like any of these things. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
really just here for the vibes.
Yeah, I just wanted to be cute and like do a fun winter activity, but like I'm bad at this, so it's not fun anymore.
Right? Is there anything like a winter sport from like the Olympics where you've seen it and you're like, that might be cool to try?
Luge, I think would be cool, but it seems deadly.
Yeah, no, that was honestly my thought too. I was like, I don't know, there's something very thrilling. It looks like about like being in a sled and going really, really fast. But then I was looking into it the other day, and apparently those 4-man luges, there's like a whole system. So the people in the middle are responsible for the body weight. The person in the front is responsible for being aerodynamic, and the person in the back is responsible for the brakes. And I was like, this is already getting too complicated for me. I want ass and sled, let's go. And then I saw a different video that was like, did you know that some of those sled runs run like across the walls? So it's not like on the ground and they just do like little loop-de-loops. No, they're fully like up the wall.
I know. That's why I feel like it seems deadly to me. Like, I would love to try it, but I have a feeling if I did, I would like just fall out and I would be like cut in half or something.
Just like immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, immediately dead.
That's how I feel about myself too. I like that we're always on the same page. It's not a surprise. But
It's
I
so
just love it every
cutesy.
single time. It's so cute.
It's because we have one brain cell bouncing between us, you know?
It's true. It's true. Let's spin for our next question. Do you think that all mysterious disappearances from the past could be resolved with today's modern science knowledge and technology?
No, because a lot of those previous crimes didn't take proper care with things like DNA evidence, so we don't really have enough of the things to use our modern technology with, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you on that. And for me, it's like maybe if that technology could be directly applicable in that time, it would obviously be a different situation, right? I mean, I feel like that's pretty much common sense at that point. But it's like what you said. It's just there's not enough knowledge about different types of things, like what to keep and how to keep it and what to collect and what might be important and you know, all these different types of things. So it's like, yeah, just because the technology exists doesn't mean it's in any way usable really anymore.
Yeah, that, and there's things in our modern world that are helpful, like cell phone logs and the fact that there's a camera on every street, you know? Those things often help police find perpetrators. So, and those things just didn't really exist back in ye old days, like the 90s.
Yep. In the other era. Don't know anything about it.
Exactly.
It's not like I was born there. It's fine. All right. Let's
Emily's just a dinosaur.
Yeah, ancient, just so old. Well, let's spin for our next question. Where is the craziest place you'd want to visit in the world to go hiking? Let's pretend first that we live in a world where you and I are just very passionate about hiking. That might help.
I mean, there's, you know, part of me that's like, it would be so cool to do like Mount Everest or something, because it is so like deadly and people,
And
you know,
huge.
die on the...
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like actually accomplishing that, I feel like, is impressive because so many people do die. The ethics of that are something else, you know, the fact that many of the guides also die trying to save the people who go hike. And personally, I would never do it because I'm not fit enough to do it, but that would be cool.
I just don't like the cold.
Yeah, Machu Picchu would be really cool.
That would be really cool.
You know, trying to think where else. I don't know. I do love a fuck-ass mountain, though.
A fuck-ass mountain is good times, usually. See, there's always been one in Hawaii that I always thought was really pretty. I don't remember the name of it, but I also intentionally did not look it up because I don't want people to suddenly be like, oh, I'm going to go plan my trip and climb that. Because apparently it's one of those things where the locals have deemed it it's a sacred place for them. But before this was a thing and people used to go and travel there to specifically go on this hike, it's basically like this huge mountain that takes you to the coastline where you're above the clouds, and it's just a beautiful view.
I mean, that sounds amazing. Again, not fit enough to go on any huge hike, so I will not be partaking, but it sounds cool.
Right? And I don't know, there's other places too where like maybe they don't include a mountain, but they seem cool enough, but I don't know, I'm just not really a part of the community, I guess, to know enough about what the good hikes are, you know?
I would love to be that girl who free climbs up like a rock mountain thing or whatever. I'm just not.
I feel almost identical about people who climb rocks as I do about people who explore caves, which is, I don't get it,
dude.
And I don't like it.
I fuck with exploring a cave. Like, it terrifies me, but yeah, like, that sounds so cool.
No way!
Dude, I think it'd be so cool.
On your own. Of all the things in my life that I know we're going to end up doing together, you'll be doing that one on your own.
No, I'm slowly building Emily up to it. She just doesn't know it yet. We went to a mine together, so that's like, cave adjacent.
There's still very clearly an exit, and honestly, that made things worse for me. I thought I was going to pass away. We were in there, and there was so little light, you could see literally nothing. And people do not understand what seeing literally nothing looks like until you've seen literally nothing. And I was like, I gotta get out of here. And it was like, wasn't that fun? And I was like, that was something, yes.
I think one day I will convince you to go into a cave with me. A guided cave experience. I think I will.
One of those ones where you go and check out like biofluorescent algae could be cool. If you're going to be like, yeah, Emily, we're going to go squeeze ourselves into tiny holes under the earth because that's fun, hard pass.
We'll work our way up to that. When we're in our 80s, you'll be like, fuck it, I'm almost dead anyway.
I don't think you understand how many spiders live in those caves too, by the way. They have whole ecosystems where like what'll happen is they build like a whole network at the top of the cave because that's where the bugs come down, and then they just have a feast. So then there's these like, it's like a web curtain at the top of these caves just full of spiders.
That does make me less keen, but I still think it would be kind of cool.
Okay. I think I'm good for hiking questions. This has gone to an area and I don't agree with, so let's move to our last question.
Emily's gonna like going spelunking and watching horror movies with me one day. I just know it.
No. I would maybe go scuba diving. What's your favorite thing about Russia?
Oh, wow. Like the whole country?
Yes.
I don't honestly know a ton about Russian culture or life. I need to learn more about Russian culture before I can give a real firm answer, but I like their ballets.
Yes, their ballets are really good. I don't know. I do think that, like, I'm kind of on the same page as you, where I just feel like as people who live in North America, we don't really get a lot of information about Russia or are taught a lot of information about Russia. But from what I've seen of their art and culture, I do think it looks very beautiful. I wish I could see more of it. Just even casually, because I feel like, again, as a North American, we usually get a lot of experience with different types of cultures and different types of art. Not so much from Russia, though. So I'd be very curious to learn a little bit more about that. And I don't know. Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a few things, though, where I'm like, yeah. Or, like, I have seen, photos before of people who've gone to Moscow. And, like, places like that look beautiful, too. Where I'm like, yeah, like, or St. Petersburg. Or, you know, like, I would be interested in going to explore Russia at some point.
You know My brother's been.
Why does your brother have the weirdest lore on earth?
I don't know. He's
Literally,
me and my husband were
for
talking
what
about this the other
earthly
day.
reason- for what earthly reason does Phil have to be in Russia? Literally for what?
He went when he was like in his early 20s. This was quite a few years ago now. But his friend, his best friend from like middle school, high school, and into college, took like a lot of time off, or took some time off after graduating high school, and he literally traveled the entire world. And then they were in college together, and he planned this trip to Russia, invited my brother. So a group of them went.
I mean, fair enough, I guess. I get it. I mean, if I had a friend who traveled the world and then was like, we're going to Russia now, I'd be like, you know what? I trust you. You've seen a few things. Let's hit the road, pal.
Honestly, I feel like that would be my ideal situation, is to go with someone who is like very well traveled, you know?
Seasoned, yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, I feel like I've traveled a bit, but like I'm not seasoned like that. You know?
No, but I do feel like unless you have the time and the means and the money very early in your life to devote your time to that, you're not really going to get seasoned as like a casual traveler person until you're probably in your 30s and 40s.
It's true. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he said it was beautiful. I have some Russian nesting dolls that he brought back for me. So that's
a good
cool.
Choice. I feel like most people know what those are too. That's a top tier souvenir there.
It is. That's what I requested, because I feel like when I was like, I was probably like 12 or something when he went, and I was like, that's all I know. I just want those dolls.
You're like, a horse won't fit on the plane, so I guess I'll settle for this.
Time for dolls.
All right. Well, are you able to guess my story for you today? And I'll put in a caveat. I have covered this story before, not in depth, in partial, back when we used to do episodes where you and I would do a story in the same episode. So I've done a very brief version of the story. And also, this story has had an update within the last 5 to 6 years, which is why I'm covering it again.
Ooh, okay. Some sort of cryptid in Russia who likes to ski.
Very close, actually. I'm going to give you...
No.
I'm going to give you 40%.
Wow. That's probably the best I've done in a while.
Definitely the last little bit, but I've kind of been a little bit, not to be too funny, cryptic. The last little bit.
Got
him. But we'll see if you remember, because I'm also pretty sure this is one of the episodes where we were also not fully getting shibliterated, but I think we were at least like trying to be tipsy for our episodes at this point in time, so...
I do not miss that. Oh my god.
Me either. Emily these days has a drinky poo and can't sleep for a week, so life is rough.
See, I have the opposite problem. I have one drink and then I'm like, time for bed. I'm gonna hit the hay, guys.
You're like, I'm going to sleep for a week. What do you mean? And
good night.
we make such good friends. But yes.
Because then Emily yells at me.
I do that, and I will not stop.
She'll never stop.
No, I won't. So I'm going to go ahead with my description, and you can tell me if you remember this. The Dyatlov Pass incident, which is also known as the Death of the Dyatlov hiking group, was an event in which 9 Soviet ski hikers died in the northern part of the Ural mountain range in the Russian SFSR of the Soviet Union on the 1st or 2nd of February in 1959 underneath undetermined circumstances. And the experience...
I feel like vaguely.
Yeah.
It's coming back.
We'll see if we get to the end, because there's a little like blip in there that'll probably confirm if you know it or not, but basically... The experienced trekking group from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, led by Igor Dyatlov, went on a hike of the highest difficulty level of that time and had established a camp on the eastern slopes of the Ural Mountain, and overnight the group cut their way out of their tents using knives, fled their campsite inadequately dressed for the heavy snowfall, strong winds, and extreme cold temperatures as low as 40 degrees Celsius, which is also 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Minus to both.
In the negatives.
Correct. But does that confirm anything for you? I know you said you kind of feel like you know this, but it's usually that last part where it's like, oh yeah, the tent thing, like.
Yeah, I do remember you telling the story. I don't really fully remember like the particulars of it, so I feel like you can refresh my memory.
I totally can do that because it has been a hot minute. So with that, I will get into the story here of the Dyatlov Pass incident because it has been a minute. I'm just going to do basically the story itself again for anybody new or anybody who might need a small reminder on kind of what I talked about before. But there will be additional details because, like I said, there's been an update to this story.
Take it away, Em.
After the group's bodies were discovered, an investigation by Soviet authorities determined that 6 of them had died from hypothermia, while the other 3 had been killed by physical trauma. 1 victim had major skull damage, 2 had severe chest trauma, and another had a small crack in his skull. 4 of the bodies were found in May 1959, lying in running water in a creek, and 3 of them had damaged soft tissue of the head and face. 2 of the bodies had missing eyes, 1 had a missing tongue, and 1 had missing eyebrows. The investigation concluded that a compelling natural force, elemental force, had caused their deaths, and numerous theories have been put forward to account for these unexplained deaths, including animal attacks, an avalanche, the appearance of a UFO or ball lightning, katabatic winds, infrasound-induced panic, conflict with local ethnic groups or fugitive criminals, a botched spy meetup with representatives of the Western Bloc, military rocket and nuclear testing involvement, or some combination of these factors. So,
wow.
Hot start today, because in my description, it's kind of, pretty to the point on what exactly the situation here is. Bunch of dead hikers found, they cut their way out of their tents. Bodies are all in varying states of what the fuck is going on, and then this is kind of what the death looks like.
Right.
So, Russia reopened an investigation into the incident in 2019. This concluding that in 2020, that an avalanche had most likely forced survivors to suddenly leave their camp in low visibility conditions with inadequate clothing before ultimately dying of hypothermia. Andriy Kuryakov, deputy head of the regional prosecutor's office, stated, "It was a heroic struggle. There was no panic. They had no choice to save themselves underneath these circumstances." A study led by scientists from the EPFL and ETH Zurich, published in 2021, suggested that a type of avalanche known as a slab avalanche could have explained some of these injuries. A mountain pass in the area later was named Dyatlov Pass in memory of the group, despite the incident occurring around 1,700 meters or 5,600 feet away on the eastern slope of Kolat-Syakhl, a prominent rock outcrop in the area.
That's a tall mountain.
Oh, yeah. So this is like, I think I mentioned this earlier, considered to be one of the most difficult hikes that you can do, especially in the wintertime.
That sounds like my literal hell.
Yes. This prominent rock outcrop in the area now serves as a memorial to the group. It is about 500 meters or 1,600 feet to the southeast of the actual camp, or the actual site of the final camp. So, to loop back into what that night looked like, because I covered this in my original episode, in 1959, a group was formed for a skiing expedition across the northern Urals in the Sverdlovsk Oblast, Soviet Union. According to prosecutor Tempelov, documents found in the tent of the expedition suggested that the expedition was named for the 21st Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union and was possibly dispatched by the local Komsomol organization. Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old radio engineering student at the Ural Polytechnic Institution, which is now known as the Ural Federal University, the leader, had assembled a group of 9 others for this trip. Most of them were fellow students and peers at the university. The initial group consisted of about 8 men and 2 women, but one member later returned because of health issues. Each member of the group was an experienced grade 2 hiker with ski tour experience and would be receiving a grade 3 certification upon their return. At the time, grade 3 was the highest certification available in the Soviet Union and required candidates to traverse 300 kilometers or 190 miles. The route was designed by Dyatlov's group to reach the far northern regions of the Sverdlovsk Oblast and the upper streams of the Lozva River. The Sverdlovsk City Route Commission approved this route. This was a division of the Sverdlovsk Committee of Physical Culture and Sport, and they confirmed that the group of 10 people in January 8, 1959. The goal of this expedition was to reach the Otorten, a mountain which is 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles, north of the site where this incident occurred. This route, estimated as a Category 3, was undertaken in February, the most difficult time to traverse. On January 23, 1959, the Dyatlov group was issued their route book, which listed their course following the number 5 trail. At the time, the Sverdlovsk City Commission of Physical Culture and Sport listed approval for 11 people. The 11th person listed was Semyon Zolotarov, who had been certified to go with another expedition of similar difficulty, the Sogrin Expedition Group. The Dyatlov group left Sverdlovsk City, which is known today as Yekaterinburg, on the same day they received the route book. So, I do have something I'll loop back to quick, but I'll just finish this little precursor excerpt about the group. So, this group arrived by train at Ivdel, a town in the center of the northern province of Sverdlovsk Oblast, in the early morning of January 25, 1959. They then took a truck to the Vizhai, a Lori village that is the last inhabited settlement to the north. On January 27th, they began their trek towards Gora or Otorten. On January 28th, one member, Yuri Yudin, who had several health ailments, including rheumatism and a congenital heart defect, turned back because of knee and joint pain that made him unable to continue the hike. The remaining 9 hikers continued the trek. Diaries and campers found around the last campsite made it possible to track the group's route up to the day preceding the incident. On January 31st, the group arrived at the edge of a highland area and began to prepare for climbing. In a wooded area, they cached surplus food and equipment that would be used for the trip back. The next day, the hikers started to move through the pass, and it seems like they planned to get over the pass and make camp for the next night on the opposite side, but because of worsening weather conditions, snowstorms, and decreasing visibility, they lost their direction and deviated west towards the top of the Kholat Syakal. When they realized their mistake, the group decided to set up camp there on the slope of the mountain, rather than to move the 1.5 kilometers, or 0.93 miles, downhill to a forested area that would have at the least offered some shelter from the weather. Yudin speculated Dyatlov probably did not want to lose the altitude they had gained, or he decided to practice camping on the mountain slope. Before leaving, Dyatlov had agreed he would send a telegram to their sports club as soon as the group returned to Vizhai. It was expected that this would happen no later than February 12th, but Dyatlov had told Yudin before he departed the group that he expected it to be longer. When the 12th passed and no messages had been received, there was no immediate reaction. Delays of a few days were common with such expeditions, and then on February 20th, the travelers' relatives demanded a rescue operation, and the head of the institute sent the first rescue groups, consisting of volunteer students and teachers, and then later the army and the militia, the police, forces became involved, with planes and helicopters ordered to join the operation. On February 26th, the searchers found the group's abandoned and badly damaged tent on the Kholat Syakal. The campsite baffled the search party. Mikhail Sharavin, the student who found the tent, said, "The tent was half torn down and covered with snow. It was empty, but all the group's belongings and shoes had been left behind." Investigators said the tent had been cut open from the inside. 9 sets of footprints left by people wearing only their socks or a single shoe or even barefoot could be followed, leading down to the edge of a nearby wood on the opposite side of the pass, 1.5 kilometers, 0.93 miles, to the northeast. After 500 meters, 1,600 feet, these tracks were covered with snow. At the forest edge, under a large Siberian pine, the searchers found the visible remains of a small fire. There were the first 2 bodies, those of Krivon Ishenko and Doroshenko, shoeless and dressed only in their underwear. The branches on the tree were broken up to 5 meters high, suggesting that one of the hikers had climbed up to look for something, perhaps the camp. Between the pine and the camp, searchers found then 3 more corpses: Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin, who died in poses suggesting that they were attempting to return to their tent. They were found at distances of 300, 480, and 630 meters, so 980, 1,570, and 2,070 feet from the tree. Finding the remaining 4 travelers then took about 2 months. They finally were found around May 4th under 4 meters, 13 feet of snow, in a ravine 75 meters, 246 feet, further into the woods from the pine tree. 3 of the 4 were better dressed than the others, and there were signs that some clothing of those who had died first had been removed for use by the others. Dubina was wearing Krivonchenko's burned, torn trousers, and her left foot and shin were wrapped in a torn jacket. So what are you thinking at this point?
First, I think it's always so sad with these, like, wilderness stories, because it is common for things to take a few days to, like, know someone's missing, but by then it's usually way too late.
Yeah, and it's especially hard too, especially just for the reasons that they listed, where it's like, yeah, sometimes it does take a couple days. That's a very, very realistic thing that happens even today, with at least communication's a little bit better today, but people have those same expectations, right?
Yeah, especially because service is spotty in a lot of these remote places, so they are really relying on, like, satellite phones and stuff like that. But why do we know why that one person's clothes were burned?
So we'll get into some of the specifics. There's a few different theories on some of these details that haven't been confirmed, but as far as there'll be more things that are really weird. So, like, there's burnt clothes, like the fact that they were barefoot, all of their shit was left behind. Like, there's just so many things where you're like, what is like, half of them are dressed, half of them are literally naked. Like, it's very weird.
I mean,
half of them
I guess
are missing body parts.
It would make sense if some of them, like, if it was, like, an avalanche and they had to, like, get up in the middle of the night, like, that checks out for some of those things. But, like, I'm thinking, and as a person who literally never hikes, if I was going up in avalanche country, wouldn't you sleep dressed just in case?
So, one of the first things that they teach you when it comes to winter hiking or camping is if you're spending the night overnight anywhere, you actually sleep with less clothes on because it's better to maintain your body heat inside of a sleeping bag. And you need to give your clothes the ability to dry out before you put them back on. And basically, if you're not wearing very many clothes and you're inside of a sleeping bag, that's one thing. If you wear your clothes to sleep, you're not really giving your body the ability to protect yourself from the elements the next day, because those clothes will be about as warm as your body heat. So when you go outside, you'll actually lose your temperature a lot faster.
I see.
So there are some reasons where I'm like, yeah, no, like, it kind of makes sense, but you're right. There's a few things where you think at the very least maybe you'd be like some more preparation or certain things would be done. And it's like you're saying as well, like, okay, so then why are half of them mostly clothed and half of them are, like, full buck-ass naked? Like,
yeah. Seems strange. I feel like you would at least sleep with your socks on.
And the other thing, too, like you were saying with the burnt clothes and everything, or, like, the certain body parts being missing, it's like, yeah, like, an avalanche, sure, but not for all of these things.
I mean, I personally haven't been in an avalanche, but I don't think they usually involve fire. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Something about that, I don't know.
Seems weird. I don't know what to say.
No, I'm on the same page as you. And then the part where I'm going to circle back is I do have a list of the names of all the members of this group, how old they were, and what their cause of death was ruled as, just because that's also a little bit interesting based on the circumstances.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious.
Yep. So the leader of the group, Igor Alexeyevich Dyatlov, was born January 13th, 1936. He was 23 when he passed away. He died of hypothermia. Then there was Yuri Nikolaevich Doroshenko, January 29th, 1938. He was 21 and died of hypothermia as well.
Makes
Ludmila
sense.
Alexandrova Dubina, or Dubinina, May 12th, 1938. 20, female, internal bleeding from severe chest trauma. Greorgy, they just called him Yuri. Alexeyevich Krivonishenko, February 7th, 1935. 23-year-old male, hypothermia. Alexander Sergeyevich Kolovotov, November 16th, 1934. 24 years old male, hypothermia. Zinaid Alexeyevna, I can't say that word. I can't say that word either. Kolmogoranova, January 12th, 1937, 22 years old, female, hypothermia. Rustem Vladimirovich Slobodin, January 11th, 1936. So many January birthdays. 22 years old, female, hypothermia. That was a 23-year-old male, hypothermia. Nikolai Vladimirovich Thibaut Brignoles, July 5th, 1935, 23-year-old male, fatal skull injury. Semyon Alexander Alexeyevich Zolotarov, 1921, birthday unknown, years 38 years old, male, severe chest trauma. And then Yuri Yefimovich Yudin, July 19th, 1937, 21-year-old male, and he had left the expedition January 28th due to illness, and then died April 27th, 2013 at the age of 76.
Oh. I guess his illness really saved him.
Yeah, from the forever illness of being dead. Yeah, so pretty much all hypothermia, and that's what most people say when they're talking about this case, is that they all died of hypothermia. Technically not true. Technically, they do have 3 bleeding related ones. So we have the one lady, because there was 2 women on this trip. So the rest of them are dudes, 2 women. One of the women from internal bleeding from severe chest trauma, and then the other 2 were a fatal skull injury and severe chest trauma.
Interesting. Like, do you think that's like from? Because they think it's an avalanche, right? Is that
so?
Correct?
That's one of the theories. So this is kind of like why people are so weird about this story specifically, because there was at the time, if I'm remembering correctly from my past notes that I read, there was a military base somewhat nearby that was known to do like testing in the area. So one of the things that I brought up earlier as far as like theories that people have come up with are something called katabatic winds and infrasound induced panic, which is just basically military technology where they induce a frequency that's meant to drive people to just straight up panic without knowing why they're panicking, which would explain why people literally seem to just rise from sleeping in the middle of the night and then just flee for no reason.
That would be an explanation for sure.
Or even they've, and like the other theories are like animal attacks, because they're like, okay, so then how did some of these people like there's knife cuts in the tent, like was something attacking them and that was them defending themselves? And they were trying to get away from whatever it was, like, and then of course there's the one that I mentioned earlier, which is that a lot of people think avalanche or like some other naturally occurring things such as ball lightning. Some people reason UFOs, which I feel like always comes up a little bit in my stories, or that they were maybe attacked by a group of criminals that were maybe just like in the area, which I have a hard time believing personally, because I'm like, you're telling me that like criminals just flying up the mountain in the middle of the winter for no reason? I don't think so, but I mean, I guess.
Criminals who hike.
Do they though?
Yes.
I guess to know that I would have to know criminals, which I don't. But I guess that could happen.
Sure, you don't. You don't know any criminals.
And then the other ones too were always like politics stuff, like, oh, it's because they're spies and they were hiking up there with government secrets. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure that's what a bunch of 20-year-olds were doing, was hiking for government secrets, but whatever. Totally. Yeah, that's what they do. I was 21, so I know that.
Me too. I actually also was a criminal who hiked.
I'm learning. I'm learning today that that's a thing. So you live and you learn.
I'm a hiking criminal.
I'm a hiking criminal.
Can confirm.
Robbed the, I don't know, what's a popular sports store. I robbed the Bass Pro
Sport
Shop
Check.
and I hit a mountain.
I robbed Sport Check and Bass Pro Shop.
Yep. It was quite the journey, It happens.
Yes. Truly.
So,
you wouldn't know because you weren't there, but I was there.
Yeah. You were there. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
A legal inquest was started immediately after the first 5 bodies were found. A medical examination found no injuries that might have led to their deaths, but it was concluded that they had all died of hypothermia. Like I mentioned earlier, that is the initial conclusion that a lot of people came to, and a lot of reports stated. However, it is not the full truth.
Right.
Slobodin, as I had mentioned, had a small crack in his skull, but it was not thought at the time to be a fatal wound. Later on, it was determined to be a fatal wound, but regardless, an examination of the 4 bodies found in May then shifted the narrative to that of an incident. 3 of those hikers had fatal injuries, including Thibaut Brignoles, who had the major skull damage, and Dubnina and Zolotarov, who had major chest fractures. And according to Boris Hendeny, the force required to cause such damage would have been extremely high, comparable to that of a car crash. Notably, the bodies had no external wounds associated with bone fractures. It was as if they had been subjected to a high level of pressure. All 4 bodies found at the bottom of the creek in a running stream of water had soft tissue damage to their head and face. For example, Dubnina was missing her tongue, her eyes, part of the lips, as well as the facial tissue and a fragment of her skull bone, while Zolotarov had his eyeballs missing. And Alexander Kolvatov had his eyebrows missing, which, it's not funny, but I can't imagine coming across this scene and realizing that one of the bodies is only missing their eyebrows.
I would be so, I am curious, but, coming across that, I'd be like, where are they?
I'd be like,
where'd they go?
Somehow I feel like, I'd be like, I really, really doubt anybody's hungry for just eyebrows. What the fuck happened here?
I'm gonna need some explanations. Someone's going to jail now. That's just it.
Right? So then, V.A. Zozrovsdeny, the forensic expert performing the post-mortem examination, had judged that these injuries likely happened post-mortem because of the location of their bodies in a stream. So at that point, they're thinking scavenging predators, probably, which makes sense. But then, again, I'm like, maybe, certain things, I know that birds, for example, will go after, eyeballs or, whatever. I'm having a hard time with the eyebrows. I don't know, man.
It's just too specific. If an animal was gonna come pluck out your hair, unless this man is bald.
I have no idea. They're all in their 20s. I'm assuming that he's not bald unless he's the random 38-year-old man who was there.
If an animal's gonna come pluck your hair for their little nest or whatever, they're probably going for your the hair on your head, not necessarily your eyebrows. That feels who's that gonna help?
Nobody. And then on top of that, it's okay, and then Dubnina, she's missing pretty much all of her face, including a piece of her skull. And it's okay, what animal do we know of that's literally out here eating bones?
That's crazy work.
Right?
That's bonkers.
Mm-hmm. Initial speculation suggested that the indigenous Mansi people, who were reindeer herders in the area, had attacked and killed the group for encroaching upon their lands. Several Mansi were then interrogated, but the investigation indicated that the nature of the deaths did not support this hypothesis. Only the hikers' footprints were visible, and they showed no sign of a hand-to-hand struggle. Which, like, I find it very strange, too, that they're like, obviously, it's the First Nations group that herds reindeer that just went ham on this random group of hikers. I'm like, that's
For no
not a
reason.
thing that happens. Yeah, no, that's
Unprovoked.
Yep. Something tells me maybe
Probably
the reindeers
not.
did it, but not the people.
I mean, I don't think reindeers are often known for their,
Hunger for eyebrows?
but I could be wrong. I don't work with reindeers that often or ever, actually.
Never. One day, right? One day.
You never know.
You never know. And although
I've been
the temperature
surprised
was
before.
low, that's true. Although the temperatures were low, about minus 25 to minus 30, which is about minus 13 to minus 22 Fahrenheit, with a storm blowing, the dead were only partially dressed, some only having one shoe, while others only wore their socks. Journalists reporting on the available parts of the inquest files claim that it states that 6 of the group members died of hypothermia and then 3 of fatal injuries. There were no indications of other people nearby on the Kholat Saikal, apart from these 9 travelers. Their tents had been ripped open from the inside. The victims had died 6 to 8 hours after their last meal. Traces from the camp showed that the group members had left the campsite of their own accord on foot. Some levels of radiation were found on one of the victims' clothing.
Oh.
And then to dispel the theory of an attack by the indigenous Mansi people, Vosroz Denny stated that the fatal injuries of the 3 bodies could not have been caused by human beings because the force of the blows had been too strong and none of the soft tissue had been damaged. Released documents containing no information about the condition of the hikers' internal organs.
Interesting.
Right? I'm like, what do you mean that the people who died from, like, pressure-related injuries and have allegedly basically been hit by a car in the mountains have zero soft tissue damage?
Seems very strange and suspicious. Like, how does that even happen?
Right? Then, at the time, the official conclusion was that the group had died because of some compelling natural force, because there had been a storm in the area. The inquest officially ceased in May of 1959 as a result of the absence of a guilty party. The files were sent to a secret archive, and then, in 1997, it was revealed that the negatives from Krivonshenko's camera were kept in the private archive of one of the investigators, Lev Nikitich Ivankov. The film material was donated by Ivanov's daughter to the Dyatlov Foundation. The diaries of the hiking party fell into Russia's public domain then in 2009. In February 2019, Russian authorities reopened the investigation into the incident, although only 3 possible explanations were being considered by them at the time, which is either a few different types of avalanches or the possibility of a hurricane. The possibility of a murder had been discounted. Then I have related reports, such as Yuri Kuntsevich, who was 12 years old at the time and who later became the head of the Yekaterinburg-based Dyatlov Foundation, attended 5 of the hikers' funerals. He recalls that their skin had a deep brown tan. However, skin color ranging from brown to bright orange is very characteristic of those who die in severe frost. And another group of hikers, about 50 kilometers, 31 miles, south of the incident, reported that they saw strange orange spheres in the sky to the north on the night of the incident. Similar spheres were observed in Ivdel and adjacent areas continually during the period from February to March 1959 by various independent witnesses, including the Meteorology Service and the military. These sightings were not noted in the 1959 investigation, although various witnesses came forward years later. Then we have what people are saying is kind of like the main one that the government has pushed forward as an explanation, which is an avalanche.
Right.
So, on July 11th, 2020, Andriy Kurakov, deputy head of the Urals Federal District Directorate, of the Prosecutor General's office announced an avalanche as the official cause of death for the Dyatlov group in 1959. Later, independent computer simulation and analysis provided by Swiss researchers also suggests an avalanche is the cause. Summarizing Kurikov's report in the New Yorker, Douglas Preston writes, "The most appealing aspect of Kurikov's scenario is that the Dyatlov Party's actions no longer seem irrational. This avalanche, according to Green, probably would have made loud cracks and rumbles as it fell across the tent, making an avalanche seem like it was imminent. Kurikov noted that although the skiers made an error in the placement of their tent, everything they did subsequently was textbook. They conducted an emergency evacuation to ground that would be safe from an avalanche, they took shelter in the woods, they started a fire, they dug a snow cave. Had they been less experienced, they might have remained near the tent, dug it out, and survived. But avalanches are far from the biggest risk in the mountains in the wintertime, and the more experience you have, the more you fear them. The skiers' expertise in this case doomed them."
That's sad.
And then there's what's considered to be like the original explanation for what's happened. So, after reviewing a sensationalist Yeti hypothesis, American skeptic author Benjamin Radford suggests an avalanche as being a more plausible original explanation, being that the group woke up in a panic and cut their way out of the tent either because the avalanche had covered the entrance to their tent or because they were scared that an avalanche was imminent. Better to have a potentially repairable slit in a tent than risk being buried alive under tons of snow. They would have been poorly clothed because they would have been sleeping, had ran to the safety of the nearby woods where trees would have helped slow oncoming snow. In the darkness of the night, they got separated into 2 or 3 groups. One group made a fire, hence the burned hands, while the others tried to return to the tent to recover their clothing, given that the danger had passed. But it was too cold, and they all froze to death before they could find their tent in the darkness. At some point, some of the clothes might have been recovered or swapped from the dead, but at any rate, the group of 4 whose bodies were most severely damaged were caught in an avalanche and buried under about 4 meters or 13 feet of snow, more than enough to account for the compelling natural force this medical examiner originally described. And as for Dubnina's facial injuries, like her tongue, it was probably removed by scavengers and ordinary predation. So basically, the government's like, yeah, probably an avalanche. The original explanation, people are like, yeah, probably an avalanche. But there's quite a few arguments that people have against this avalanche hypothesis because they aren't able to get a proper... You can't test... How do I say this? You can't test an area that had a storm that nobody else was in accurately to even know in the first place what even happened as far as like natural forces go. This is why so many people are like, well, avalanche sure could have been a hurricane, could have been this, could have been that, because it's a mountain range too, right? So it's susceptible to a bunch of different types of activities. But
wouldn't there usually be like very clear signs of an avalanche if it did happen?
So usually, as far as like being in the mountains and signs of an avalanche, there's not so much a sign of an avalanche as there is certain areas that are prone to avalanches. There's no true way of avoiding an avalanche.
Right.
But no, because if you're in the mountains in the wintertime, you're basically already putting yourself at risk of being in an avalanche. It's more so wrong place, wrong time. So this is why they try to educate people on things you can or can't do in the mountains to help prevent an avalanche from happening.
I see.
So then, as far as arguments against an actual avalanche, they have that the location of the incident didn't have any obvious signs of an avalanche having occurred at all. An avalanche would have left certain patterns and debris distributed over a wide area, right? Because it's snow being torn up and moving down a slope. You'd think that there'd be like signs of movement, I guess. But apparently there wasn't anything they could see as far as obvious signs. The bodies found within a month of the event were covered with a shallow layer of snow. But if there had been an avalanche sufficient enough to sweep away the second party, these bodies would have then been swept away as well. And this would have caused way more serious and different injuries in the process and would have damaged the tree line. So basically the argument there is, well, if it's an avalanche, why would it only affect some of the bodies and not all of the bodies if all of them were caught in an avalanche?
Yeah, that's a good point. You would
then,
think... that would be the simple explanation.
Right? Because that's the thing, too. It sounds so compelling when you're thinking... Like, if you think about this, you're like, oh, yeah, like, that makes sense. Like, you wake up out of a sleep and you're like, avalanche! And then you just, like, run out there in your underpants. But then it's like, okay, but yeah, why would only half of the people be showing damages from an avalanche and then the other half not? Like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Also, you would think, like, I know you said that because their experience in this theory doomed them, but you would think it would have the opposite effect, you know, that, like, if they were new, they would run, versus if they were experienced, that they would know to stay.
Right?
You know?
So I think I almost wonder, too, if it's just one of those situations where, like, maybe it's not even that, like, experience doomed them. I know that's the perspective, at least people who were looking into what they did as, like, as a precautionary measure in this case. Like, if it was an avalanche and this is what they did, like, they mentioned it's textbook. But sometimes I think, too, when it comes to nature and, like, natural instances or whatever it is that they've been calling them in this story, it's kind of hard to know exactly what the right thing to do is, especially in certain types of situations. Like, yeah, you might be taught exactly what to do in the case of an avalanche, but then there's other factors. Like maybe the training they received was with the assumption that, oh yeah, this would happen in the daytime. Like, I don't think people are trained to necessarily prepare in their sleep for a storm, like a storm that rips apart their tent or whatever, you know what I mean?
But you would think that that's the, I don't know. I haven't taken any survivalist training, but I would think that would be the exact scenario you would train for because, you know, most people can figure out what to do in the middle of the day when they have their wits about them. But the thing that you would almost want to prepare for is when you are, you know, taken by surprise by something.
Yeah, well, that's also why they brought up, like, their location. They were like, yeah, the Dyatlov group's setting up where they were, which is basically on the slope of a mountain instead of going to a tree line, is already a very strange choice, especially with a storm setting in. They're like, yeah, if you're somebody who's experienced or at least trained in, like, how to navigate winter, like you mentioned, like, survivalist scenarios, like, that's another one where they're like, yeah, like, a person who would be acting as somebody who's educated in this area would have gone to a place where there is shelter and where if anything did happen in the middle of the night, they wouldn't have been swept away. So already weird choice of camp location, right?
Right. I mean, I guess it was the,
unless
what,
they had
the 50s?
No choice, right?
So, yeah, maybe there was different information, I don't know, or less information.
I know. My thought, too, is also, like, if they mentioned that there was a storm in the area, I'm like, maybe they were literally just hiking through a snowstorm and didn't even know how close they were to a tree line, or, like, knew but didn't really know, like, where it was.
Or they thought they couldn't get there or something, I don't know.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then, more than 100 expeditions to the region have been held since that incident, and none have ever reported conditions that would create an avalanche in the area that the camp was found. A study of the area using an up-to-date terrain-related physics model revealed that the location was entirely unlikely for an avalanche. The dangerous conditions found in a nearby area, which had a significantly steeper slope and cornices, were observed in the same months between April and May when the snowfalls of the winter were melting. During February, when this incident occurred, there was no such conditions.
Weird. Now that's strange.
Yeah, so they're in an area where avalanches aren't even reported, and then everybody's like, it was an avalanche.
That's very suspicious.
It's suspicious. An analysis of the terrain and the slope showed that even if there could have been a very specific avalanche in the area, its path would have gone past the tent because of where in the slope the tent was. The tent had collapsed from the side, though, and not in a horizontal direction.
That's strange.
Yeah, so in order for the tents to be crushed, the avalanche would have had to happen horizontally, which is a strange move for an avalanche.
Yeah, that is strange.
Dyatlov, the leader of the group, was an experienced hiker, and the much older Zolotarov was studying for his master's certification in ski instruction and mountain hiking. Neither of these two men would have been likely to camp anywhere in the path of a potential avalanche. So basically,
that's what
two
I'm saying.
people with experience. Mm-hmm. So that's why they're like, yeah, why are we saying avalanche if you guys have like 2 seasoned ski hikers with you who definitely would have caught if that was a problem?
That's what I'm saying, is like, it's bizarre to me that, like, these people who put themselves in these situations wouldn't know better,
You'd think so. Then we have footprint patterns leading away from the tent that were inconsistent with someone, let alone a group of 9 people, running in panic from either real or imagined fear. All of the footprints leading away from the tent and towards the woods were consistent with people walking at a normal pace. They were not running. They were walking.
That's weird.
Right? And that is the end of part 1 of my Dyatlov Pass incident story.
We're doing a 2-parter.
We are doing a 2-parter.
Are you, in your next part, gonna get more into, like, kind of like the, like, bulk of the conspiracies?
I'll be getting a little bit more into the conspiracies. I'm also going to get more into the more modern investigations into this and what people have kind of figured out about some of these weird particular details that have come up. And then I'm also going to finish with what actually happened.
We know what happened now. Is that correct?
It's like a hotly debated topic, but basically there is a replication that people were able to perform, an accurate replication of events, and they basically confirmed everything. So I thought, it's really cool. So I'll touch on that though on my next story for y'all.
Just leaving us on a cliffhanger. Typical Emily.
I know. Well, what do you think, Jen? What's the weirdest thing you think? And then what do you think happened?
Okay, weirdest thing is the burned clothes. And I was on Team Avalanche until very recently in this last little bit. You talked me out of Avalanche.
Until the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, you've talked me out of Avalanche. I don't feel like Avalanche is right now. But I honestly don't know what I believe yet.
I know. It's literally one of those things where, like, you think you understand what's going on when you get into it, and then the more you read about it, you're like, literally, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, like, I feel like there's so many different possibilities, and, like, there's a lot of, like, little quirks about it where you're like, what the fuck would cause that?
Right? And
why would they be walking?
Like, right. And then it's like, why would you calmly walk away from your tent in the middle of the night nude?
Naked.
Why would you set up a tent? Why are half of you hit by a bus? Why are half of you underneath like 16 feet of snow? Why is one of you burnt? Why is one of you missing your eyebrows?
The missing eyebrows. That is a question I want answered.
Because my thing is, like, scavengers, sure. But even then, I'm like, I can't think of a singular animal that's desperate enough to only eat the eyebrows off of a full human being. If I was an animal and I got by on eating dead bodies, yeah, I would be eating booty. I would be all up on that ass. You know what I mean? I would not be going for somebody's eyebrows. Like, what are we even talking about? They're
just
naked.
Nibble on those brows and be like, yeah, that's enough for me. I'm good. I'm full now.
This is a delicacy, I hear. But that's what
it's
I mean.
Giving almond mom.
Why would only their faces? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fucking weird. But I guess that brings us to the end of our story today.
It does. So if you liked today's episode, make sure to give us a review on wherever you're listening to our podcast. We also have our website, which is www.wheelofcrime.com if you want to check us out on there. We have our Patreon, which is Wheel of Crime at Patreon. We have our social media, which is on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok, all at Wheel of Crime. We have our email, which is wheelofcrime@gmail.com. And lastly, we do keep our listener stories form open all year round now, 24/7. If you listen to one of our episodes and you're like, my uncle astral projected to the Dyatlov Pass and he knows exactly what happened, you can write in.
He was there.
He was there. He knows.
Yes. But that's it. That's all. And we'll see you next week for another new episode. Okay, bye.
Bye.